If you're seeing a sports related topic on my wrestling channel and you're questioning why AWO and more laying SmackDown, why are you doing this? That's because I decided to add sports related content to my wrestling channel. So for now on, latest SmackDown will be wrestling related, but also be incorporating sports. I will be incorporating sports into this channel, and I will make a new introduction video explaining all this. I just need time for it. But in this video, my first official sports video on this channel, on my latest SmackDown channel, my wrestling channel, now it's called latest SmackDown Wrestling and Sports. I might come up with a new name later on when I can think of something better. But that's my channel right now. But the first video, and make sure before I get into it, smash that like button down below, subscribe if you're new, and share it out with your friends, family, colleagues, and everybody's into sports and wrestling. I know a lot of people are into. You may not be into wrestling, but you're into sports, and vice versa. But the first official sports video is going to be the topic down below, the divisional playoffs of 2023. This is coming up Saturday and Sunday. As you know, there's 8 teams left in the season. Basically, you got Philadelphia and New York in the NFC, but along with San Francisco and Dallas, also in the NFC. In the AFC, you got Buffalo and Cincinnati, and you got Jacksonville and Kansas City. And so with this, we're going to go over previewing predictions and who I think is going to advance to the division, not the division, the conference championships, the AFC and NFC next. That takes place next week. And then after that, you got 2 weeks off, a 2-week hiatus until the Super Bowl, right? But let's take a look. Let's take a look at who plays who. Okay, and I'll give you my predictions preview. Okay. Jacksonville and Kansas City. Well, Jacksonville is going to play at Arrowhead in Kansas City. Jacksonville, we know the miraculous comeback against LA Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers. Where the Chargers, I'm sorry, but they should have won that game. They should have won that game. They fired their offensive coordinator and their QB coach or whatever, but they should really. I think they should have fired their coach. I'm sorry. They should let their coach go, but I guess the coach is staying on. But they should never let Kansas City come back. I mean Jacksonville come back. I'm sorry, my bad. And I think Trevor Lawrence has turned to a star this year, right? And I think he's gonna be a future MVP caliber top 5 quarterback in the league. He's definitely on the pathway there. But it stops here. Jacksonville will not beat Kansas City. Kansas City will win at home in Arrowhead, and they'll advance to the AFC Conference Championship. So, I love the story of Jacksonville. They're definitely up and coming. They're going to be a scary, good young team. They may be a little ahead of the schedule here, right? Maybe a little ahead. But but even if they lose, they do have a very bright future with Trevor Lawrence leading them for years and years. They got their franchise quarterback. New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the New York Giants, a lot of people think, yes, Minnesota had a better record, had a home field advantage, right? They won NFC North, right? But a lot of people weren't sold on Minnesota as being legit, being like what their record indicates. And a lot of people took New York to kind of beat Minnesota. They were thinking New York was considered the underdog in terms of betting. They were the plus and stuff. But a lot of people didn't believe that. A lot of people thought New York could actually be the one team to upset Minnesota. And they did. They did beat Minnesota. And they're going to face their rivals, Philadelphia, NFC East matchup. But it stops here. Philadelphia is clearly the better team. So I got Philadelphia here beating New York. And Philadelphia will end up in the NFC Conference Championship. But, gotta say, Daniel Jones has looked good this year. He's an unrestricted free agent. I think New York would be stupid not to try to lock him up. And give him better weapons. They need better weapons in offense, especially the receiving core. They got to lock up Jones, lock up Barkley, but give him better receivers and tight ends to go forward. Because they got the defense. They definitely got the defense, and they got the running back, right? So, yes. Okay. Enough about that. Here's Here's the one that could go either way. I can see any team winning it. I don't think there's really an underdog in this game, if you think about it, right? Both of these teams you could definitely see in the Super Bowl, right? And definitely be in next week's championship game in the AFC. And so I really don't think there's really an underdog here. I really like Joe Burrow, definitely the franchise quarterback. Josh Allen, Buffalo. Buffalo's probably more the complete team in terms of more all-around defense and offense. But the Bengals are still a dangerous team. They're playing in Buffalo, you know what that is like. Playing in Buffalo is like, the crowd there, the people there, Bills Mafia. This, if Cincinnati wins here against Buffalo, I wouldn't consider it upset. Okay, I wouldn't consider it upset. But I think I'm gonna still pick Buffalo here. But I think it's gonna be a relatively close game, and I'm not gonna be surprised if Cincinnati does win here. So I'm still picking Buffalo to face Kansas City in next week's AFC Conference Championship game. But like I said so many times already, Cincinnati winning here wouldn't be an upset. Because I think out of the 4 games this week, this is like the harder. This is the one game that's made it harder for me to decide. And I'm a Buffalo fan, but I do like Cincinnati. I like Joe Burrow. I've been to Cincinnati. I've been to Buffalo. I've been to Cincinnati and Buffalo. I like both cities. I do like Cincinnati Bengals. Heck, I've been to Cleveland and then mind the Browns. But I'm gonna pick Buffalo here. But it won't be shocking if Cincinnati wins here. Okay. Final game. 49ers. San Francisco 49ers host the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. Here's the thing. San Francisco, yes, dangerous defense. One of the best defenses in the league. And they got a good running core and good receiving core. Dallas, Dallas beating Tampa Bay to me is not a surprise. I'm sorry, but Dallas is the better team than Tampa Bay. Yes, they have Tom Brady, but I'm sorry. This is like the first time Tom Brady is in the playoffs. I really didn't have confidence that he could lead to the next round. Just ever. And I know the saying is never bet against Tom Brady, but I think this is the first time. Last week was the first time you could bet against Tom Brady. Really, personally. So that's no surprise. That to me, that was not an upset to beat Dallas. That they beat Tampa. I think that was a lot of people predicted that. Okay, and a lot of people have this thing where Dallas is kind of like stumbles, fumbles, doesn't show up. The playoffs, stuff always goes wrong. Like last year against this team, against San Francisco, and these two teams have a rivalry, but hasn't been used and hasn't been around like years. But going back in the 80s and 90s, these two teams have a rivalry. San Francisco and Dallas were always some of the best teams, and they always had to go through each other or to get to the Super Bowl, or they even face each other. I'm not sure. I don't remember the divisions back then. The divisions back then were much different then than they are now. So I don't really remember what divisions were like back then. Who was division? But I think they were both NFC back then, so they might have faced each other. But they did have a rivalry. Dallas has Dak Prescott. If he could perform like he has against Tampa, he could lead this Dallas team to the victory over San Francisco, because they do have defense and they do have a decent running game. San Francisco has a great running game. They've got good receivers in Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Samuel, and McCaffrey could do running and receiving. The question is, Brock Purdy has been such a great story, right? A tremendous story. Like a Cinderella story, maybe? If he wins the Super Bowl, it's definitely a Cinderella story. This guy's Mr. Irrelevant, hasn't won. No, hasn't won. He has won. But I say he was the last pick in last year's draft, and he's leading this team to possibly to the conference championship and maybe the Super Bowl. We'll see. Is the Brock Purdy story going to end here? That's the only thing you could say to San Francisco you have to be worried about if you're a 49er fan. I know you're not. I know most of them are not worried, right? But it's still a quarterback league, right? Quarterbacks is the one that lead you to a championship. I'm going to still go San Francisco. But, okay. So, my teams are, I picked obviously Kansas City over Jacksonville, Buffalo over Cincinnati, and Kansas City versus Buffalo in the AFC Conference Championship next week. But if Bengals, it could be Bengals again. I wouldn't be surprised if Bengals win. That's to me, right? I can see Bengals next week versus Kansas City. Kansas City versus Jacksonville to me is more of a sure thing. But this game between Buffalo and Cincinnati is not. In the NFC, New York versus Philadelphia, and San Francisco over Dallas. So I'll see Philadelphia and San Francisco in the NFC Conference Championship, the two best teams in the NFC. So next week, Kansas City will host Buffalo, AFC Conference Championship, I assume. And Philadelphia would host San Francisco in NFC Conference Championship. And whoever wins next week's games will go to the Super Bowl. And we do a preview predictions for that next Thursday, whenever I make this video. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Like, share, subscribe, comment below, and tell me your predictions, guys. Thanks.